Hey everybody, welcome back to another Gravity Ace Devlog. Lots of updates this week, fixes, changes, published a new build, and I'm wearing this hat because, as you can see, it's kind of cold here lately, and I haven't had a haircut in a long time. First thing I want to show you is the build system that I use for Gravity Ace. I published this to GitHub a few days ago. It's all the scripts that I use for my build system that I'm actually using. I've got some libraries here for doing, configuration of the build system, posting to Discord, interfacing with Git version control, and then I have scripts for doing the build, running all the export templates, posting updates to Git as the commits are made with a post-commit hook, pushing builds to Steam and itch.io. I don't know if this will work for you. These scripts are written in Python, but they may not work on your machine perfectly. They may not work exactly perfect with your game, but I'm hoping that this will help you in some way. Maybe seeing how I approach this problem is useful, and it could give you a good starting point for your own build system if you're not using something like this already. Saves me a lot of time, takes a lot of the drudgery, and the chore out of pushing a new build, yeah, just streamlines the whole process for me. Anyway, take it for what it is. Hope it's useful. Another thing I've been working on is the UI for the options screen. So you can see I've got all the different major areas now. This looks a lot like option screens you've probably seen in other games. But before this, I had a lot of my options all in one screen, and I was running out of room. So I put them each on their own subscreen, and you can see, each screen has room for more options. I have room for more categories of options here. I am planning on adding another category here. It's super secret. I'll tell you about it later. But once I do, it basically just gives me more room to add things here. I have a good framework for adding additional options even within these separate screens, and I think the system works really well. I like the way it looks, I like the way it operates. Pretty happy with it. Another thing I added were some tips that show when you start a level. So when you go into a level, you see the letterbox appear, gives you some title, the title of the level, some subtext here, and a tip from the lieutenant. This one says the reactor core will explode if it touches anything. Right? And these are tips that reinforce ideas that the players learned through gameplay. Maybe they've been explicitly told these things in tutorial, but these tips, because they show up every time you switch or go to another level, you're going to see a random selection of the tips. They'll kind of reinforce the ideas that the players already intuitively picked up, learned through gameplay or learned through tutorial in a different way, just to help reinforce and help make those ideas stick. And the art was pretty fun to work on. As you know, working on pixel art, it's difficult to resize, right? So this art was resized by about 50%, shrunk by about 50%. So I spent 20 minutes or so redrawing it at this new size, just so that it would look better on that screen. I think this took about 20 minutes, but it's kind of, just an example of the kind of things I do on the stream. I do programming, I do art, I do sound effects, and, just kind of switch back and forth as the thing that I needs to get done. So if you're into this kind of thing, if you want to check out more, please come join me on a live stream, and you can help me draw. I got a lot of suggestions while I was drawing from people watching who pointed out, oh, you missed a pixel here, you missed a pixel there. Fun to hang out and draw together. I also spent some time adding names into the game. Every astronaut that you can rescue gets a random name, and every cave wall that you generate in a level gets a name. The names for the astronauts are all kind of famous last names. I intermix them with a title. And you see them when you rescue them and they say something. This is Diplomat Pittman. Let's do another one. And now, random name is Colonist McLanahan. pretty cool. It adds a little emotion to the game. You know, you get to know these characters a little bit and makes you, really want to save them, rescue them. Scooter, one of the participants in my chat, suggested that we put them on the game over screen so you can see the result of all the people that you've rescued in that level. I think that's a great idea. I'm probably going to do that. I've also got names for all the cave walls. So as you create these caves, each one gets a random name. You can change the name to something else if you want to. And it's just sort of, you don't see these in the actual gameplay, but you see them in the editor, which is fun in itself, and the player can see, oh, I'm working on this place, maybe they've got it zoomed in and they can see this name and immediately orient themselves, here I am in the level. Some of these levels can get pretty big, and so it provides a little landmark so that these aren't all just samey, you can actually see a name for each one and figure out where you are. So it's semi-useful. Mostly it's just fun, makes the editor a little bit more fun. And all these names come from geographic features of the moon and of Mars, and I'm probably going to add more from different places around the solar system. There's about 500 in the game right now. A couple other small changes I made are some design changes to the UI for the fuel gauge and when you're shooting. So the fuel gauge right now, what I did basically was I made it so it stays green more often. It's green longer. It used to only turn green once you had 100% fuel or higher, and there's no upper cap on your fuel capacity, so it can go higher than 100%. But it was only green when it was at 100, and that often isn't the case when you're playing the game. So usually the player would be looking at a yellow fuel gauge or a red fuel gauge, and it was blinking. What I did was I changed the threshold so that now it's green as long as it's over 50%. So the player sees a green fuel bar more often. Then it turns yellow at 50%, and it doesn't actually turn red until it gets down to 25%. I think that fits people's intuition better about how gas tanks work, and it reduces some stress. Seeing a yellow fuel gauge all the time is kind of stressful. Now you can see that it turns green and feel a little better about it. It also doesn't blink, so it's easier to read. It does stay on if it's yellow or red, so that you can always see it, and then once it fills up to green again, it kind of fades away unless you're using the engine. It always comes on when you're using the engine, so you can see the fuel consumption happening. I think those are good changes, and they're in the most recent build. The other thing that changed was there's a little ring now that appears just around the shield ring when I shoot. You'll see it here. And you can see as that ring goes down, once it hits 0, the shield turns off, and then it comes back on when I stop shooting. So this isn't a new mechanic. This shooting mechanic that affects the shield has been in there for a long time. It was kind of hard to see sometimes when your shield went off. There's a lot happening on the screen, and there's a lot of noise going on, and so there is an audible cue that happens when your shield goes down, but people missed it sometimes. So this is a new visual cue to accompany the audio cue that just lets you know your shield has gone down, and it lets the player predict when their shield is about to go down so that they can stop shooting. The whole point of this feature is to give people a reason not to just spam the fire button the whole time. And if they do, which is fine, you can hold down the fire button the whole time if you want to, but you're not going to have shields. If you want shields, you've got to stop shooting occasionally. At a high level of play, you can time when you start shooting, when you stop shooting, and keep your shield active for the optimal amount of time. It takes the guesswork out of it. And I think if you were flying an actual spaceship that had this effect, where the shields and the gun were kind of connected using the same energy source, I think in a real spaceship, you would obviously have this sort of a gauge in it. So it makes sense within the world to have this available to the player as well. Last thing I want to talk about is the Nakama multiplayer server. Nakama is a game server. I'm using it for leaderboards. I'm using it for online storage. Right now I've finished the leaderboard implementation. There's leaderboards for every level now. And this will show, best scores, best times for the various ranks. And it'll all be online, so you can compare your score, your time to other players. It should be a lot of fun. I'm hoping it's going to be a lot of fun. All the client code is shipped. It's in the game. It's just deactivated. All that's necessary now is for me to deploy this out to a public server. So deploying this to a public server is, it's kind of fiddly. There's a lot of config I have to do. There's security setups. It's boring. It's kind of a chore. I am working on it. I've got config files written. I just need to take it across the finish line here, which I hope to have done before the next update. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the next update will have online leaderboards. And then once that's online, it'll be a lot easier to add additional online features. The next one, obviously, that I want to add is being able to share levels that you create with other players. So that's it for this week, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe below. And come join me on the live stream. Come join our Discord server. We're a bunch of friendly folks and would love to have you there. And you can get all the links on gravityace.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. See you next time.